is Xanadu, the game. So just sorry, I feel like just to refresh because I think we talked about this with Justin. In the third act of the game, the kind of sort of hinge point, the climax in a way of the game, or I guess not the sort of intellectual climax of the game, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You visit Mammoth Cave and find this an area that's referenced in the game. Maybe it's a real part of the cave. I can't remember the Hall of the Mountain King. And there you find an old computer monitor that is running a game called Xanadu that was developed by denizens of this cave. And when you play the game Xanadu, you are thrust into a version of I keep wanting to say Kentucky Route Zero, of Colossal Cave Adventure from 19, I think it's 1977. Um, and you're playing the game, you're inputting text commands, but also you're sort of like playing as the character. So the characters are having dialogue. It's kind of this interesting like multi-leveled conversation where like you're talking with Junebug, right?
Mm.
Or like the different characters are you're choosing their own inputs for them, so you're not directly typing into the computer as you would in Kentucky in Classic Adventure once again. Um, but actually, this is all preamble because I think what's really cool is that suddenly, abruptly, as you're playing that game, it transitions into a management sim. So I just said, like, we've come full circle or full zero here because I said in the beginning that like I don't like management games, you know. But this is the case where I love the management game in KRZ, and I love it because the game this is going to sound sort of abstract, but like the game speaks through the interface and the system of a management game. And what it speaks is an amazing narrative revelation, which is that Weaver Marquez, who's one of the kind of like maybe the most important figure, but an incredibly elusive figure in the whole story, worked for this character that you've just been in this cave. And you learn that because you're suddenly playing this like sim where you're like running, right? You're running what are they doing? Their software research? I actually forget what they're on some kind of research project and they're hiring research assistants.
Yeah.
And one of the people you can hire is Weaver Marquez, if
Mhm.
I'm remembering this right. I could be mixing something up, but it's something like that.
Yeah.
And the moment like through just the hiring sim interface where you see Weaver's name appear is so powerful and so poignant because she's been like the radical missing figure the entire game.
Yeah.
And like now she's unexpectedly coming in through the backest of back doors, you know? Like inside a management sim, inside of the game Xanadu, inside of the game Kentucky Route Zero. So it's like you hit the kind of nexus of involution, and there, like at that like dark heart of the system, you finally meet this ghost that you've been chasing, you know, but it's like it's just a figment because she doesn't talk. You just can hire her as a sort of figure, and she fulfills a certain function for the management sim, and then the game goes on. But it's just a really beautiful, like I think the whole experience is worth it just for that moment. Um, yeah.
So two quick
Okay.
two quick things. At the Dark Heart of the System has to be your first album as Nexus of Involution. Um, it's like a death metal band or something. No,
Hell
but
yeah.
I think, I mean, I agree. I think that's, you just said basically why I like that part because it's an earned kind of almost like mini climax of the game where you have this thing that you forgot about, maybe that you were supposed to forget about, right? That was like plotted in this way of payoff. I mean, I think partly, obviously, this is a question that would take us in a totally different direction, but partly the whole conversation about why this, we've gone from smart games back to Kentucky Route Zero, I guess, right? We're relocating or refocusing things on this game in particular, and the question of what works about it, I guess, or how it works, or if it works, is is partly hinging on like the game's own. I mean, because obviously, we haven't really even talked about the fact that the game is about, debt and kind of like economy and stuff, and thinking about that in a general sense. The sort of debt, I guess, that a game has or that a narrative has to, that it, your investment in it or the game zone or the narrative zone kind of expenses or something is kind of an interesting question here because, yeah, that moment pays off, right? Because there's the plot works in a certain way that affords something to come back. Like there is a return of this character in the most, as you said, I don't know if it's direct or indirect, but like the nexus of involution, right? Like that, I think that's like a really nice way to put it. But again, I mean, part of the my problem or part of my question is just that, the narrative is always seeming to, while it's focusing thematically on things like debt and, like I guess regret and addiction and all these other things, it's also asking us to consider like meaning, right? Like what does any of this story mean in the first place? Like the characters kind of come full circle in a way, in a really beautiful way, but I also maybe I do think there are clear moments in the game that are way more important and way more engaging than others in a way that you wouldn't necessarily say about, say, I don't know, like a really good work of literary fiction. I mean, there are going to be moments that are your favorite moments, but there are moments in this game that I feel like, yeah, should have, could have been handled differently or could have, even within the vision of what seems to be happening, I think could have been, yeah, just done in a totally different way. Like I don't know that we have any other moments that are as good as the Xanadu moment, for example, like in the middle of the game at least.